Welcome to Financial Investing Radio, where you'll learn the secrets for consistent, high-probability returns in the financial markets for additional income to change your life. Grant applies consistent, high-probability trading systems for the financial markets. He's only recently started sharing these tried and true market secrets. As a gift to listeners, Grant is offering his roadmap to high-probability financial control. Go to financialinvestingradio.com and download yours today. Now, here's your host and trading veteran, Grant Larson.
Hey, this is Grant. Thanks for joining. I was thinking back of an experience I had a number of years ago. One night I was coming out of the mountain. It was me, my brothers, my dad. We had been in the mountains just scouting out some of the areas, looking at the countryside, and we were in a two-wheel drive truck, and it was raining really hard. My father was driving the truck, and the road was totally muddy and slippery, and as we looked off to the side of the road, we could see that the side of the mountain dropped off really steep, and so it had our full attention. The truck kept sliding close to the edge. We, of course, were worried for our lives there. So looking back at that situation, I wonder if we really did enough homework to decide if we should go down that road, given the conditions and the fact that we were in a two-wheel drive truck. Now, perhaps we can relate that to making decisions to enter an investment or a trade, right? How many times do the emotions participate in the decision to enter a position? And the answer is every time. A few years ago, a friend of mine, he had his own plane, and he would fly it often, and he was dedicated to managing his list. He had a checklist of things to do before and after every flight. So no matter how many times he flew the plane, he would walk through the list religiously. And even though he had it memorized, he would still physically have the list, walk through it, and check things off. And I would follow him around and watch him check things every time. Now, I compare that experience to another friend who is also a pilot. And at the end of one of his particular flights, he called me and he said, "Grant, I'm not going to fly anymore." I asked him why. And he told me that when he had landed, he checked his fuel and discovered that he was flying on fumes. He did not exercise the same diligence as my other friend in terms of managing a list, see if it was safe to fly. Sometimes our investments or our trades may be lucky and we have a quote-unquote successful flight, even though we didn't check our list. The key word here, of course, is luck. So the most important thing we can do is to protect ourselves against losses. In other words, profits come after that. Let me say it another way. Protection first, profits second. I'll try that one more time. Protection first, profits second. We have to have our minds thinking that way and get out of the frame of thinking that says it's all about the profits. It's actually all about being able to invest and continue to invest. And so we have to make sure we build in the protections to help us be safe. So what are the items that should be on the checklist that we evaluate before entering a position? So I'd ask you, what items are on your list? And so get out your list and evaluate it. Now, if you don't have one, then get started on one now. Now, I'm gonna list 10 items to consider for your checklist. This isn't the only things, but it should be on your checklist to evaluate before you, quote unquote, take off with a trade or an investment. All right, so here we go. Number one. Sounds like a Dave Letterman thing. Here we go. Number one. And these are not in any particular order. So it's not like one is more important than 10. It's just the order that they came out of my brain. All right. Number one, market structure. So be sure to know and identify what the key reference locations are on the market that you're investing or trading in. In other words, know what the support and resistance locations are, or where lots of trading has happened. Know where key channels are and the directions that they're going, where more volume has taken place and more people have invested or traded. You got to know that. All right, that's critical. So be aware of where you are in the market structure. That's number one. Number two, recent price movements. So it's critical to understand the typical range of movement for your instrument, right? To know how far along it is in the current trajectory. All right, and so if it typically moves, 10 points or 10 handles, and you're already, 8 or 9 up, but you're getting another signal to continue, think twice about before actually entering in there. All right, number 3, timing. And now this includes things such as the time of the month, or the time of the day, or the day of the week. For intra-day trading, certain times of the day are more active than others. Now, this is also true for swing trading on stocks, right? So you need to know the pattern of movement of the stock. You need to be aware of timing. All right, number 4, economic reports. So things such as dates and times for when those reports come out, and when earnings reports come out, and when dividend payments and other newsworthy events. And there's some good services out there that help you keep apprised to it. I typically use Forex Factory to keep myself up to date, and I'm generally just looking at the red events is the ones that I watch and worry about. All right, let's look here. That was number 4. Number 5. So the pattern of behavior for the market that you're investing in or trading in. So examine how it behaves. Does it typically take 2 steps? So it typically comes up, performs a pullback, carries on. Does it do 3 steps before significant changes or reversals? How often does it typically chop sideways before it breaks out into another direction? So understand the personality of what you are investing or trading in because they are different. Number 6, so this is related indexes, right? What this is about is understanding how well the instrument that you're going to invest or trade in is performing relative to its index or indexes. And so generally they participate in multiple indices, and it's critical to know how it's behaving relative to the index that it's in. All right, that's number 6. Number 7, liquidity. So make sure that you have market participation. You want to be able to exit your position and ensure that you have sufficient liquidity to do that. Now, for most of us, it's not like we're making massive 100 contract or 5,000 stock investments or purchasing. Maybe you are, but in any event, you better know about what the liquidity is so that you can get out of your position. Number 7 is premium levels. Now this relates directly to options, right, for swing trading. But if you're trading options, make sure that you understand what the current premium level is and what's available to you, because that also can influence the way in which you enter the market. So if there's insufficient premium and you're used to selling your options, then perhaps you have to think about a different strategy, which would be a buying option, or perhaps there's insufficient premium to justify doing a spread, or whatever it is, right? Know what the premium levels are. And then closely related to that is number 9, which is your market volatility. Now this is generally the rate of change of price over time, and that becomes an important factor because price changes that occur too fast create unsustainable prices, right? Whereas price changes that are too slow give no economic advantage. So you need to understand what the typical volatility levels are for what you're trading, but also the overall market. What is the current volatility in that? And if it's too volatile, then that's too risky as well. So it's kind of like the 3 bears in the porridge, right? There's hot and there's cold, and then there's just right. So when it comes to volatility, you really got to make sure you keep an eye on that volatility. Obviously, the VIX gives you some indication of current volatility levels, but even within that, you can have spikes of volatility at certain points of the month or the day, and so forth. So volatility can be your friend, can be your enemy. Number 10 on this list here, so correlated market conditions. Now, this is important to understand because there are directly correlated and inversely correlated markets for what you're going to invest in or trade. So for example, let's say you were trading the E-mini futures. So a correlated market to that would be the NASDAQ NQ futures contract. You should know what that market's doing. All right. And to continue further with that example, the gold contract, GC, is generally inversely correlated to the E-mini contract, but not all the time. In fact, right in the middle of an economic report, a red economic report, those two can actually line up. You need to know that and understand that. All right. But if let's say you're investing in Apple, right? You're either buying the stock or doing some things with options on that. You should understand where Apple is and how it's performing relative to its indexes, say like NDX, right? As well as other spider indexes for which Apple would participate in. So know what those indexes are and how it's trading relative to those. And you should also understand the inversely correlated markets to Apple. So what would those be? I won't list those out here. If you know what they are, then feel free to email me at grant@financialinvestingsecrets.com. All right. Now, sometimes, we're lucky enough to fly our plane without checking the fuel ahead of time. Or we're lucky enough to navigate a steep, muddy mountain road in a two-wheel drive truck while hanging off the edge of a precipice. But the probabilities are not in our favor if we do that. So build your list. Check it twice. I think I've heard that somewhere before. And then be sure to use it every time, every single time. Remember, it's protect yourself first, then go for profits second. So thanks for joining. Until next time, be safe.
Thank you for joining Grant on Financial Investing Radio. Remember to subscribe and leave feedback. Don't forget to download your free roadmap to high probability financial control before you make an investment decision. Visit financialinvestingradio.com now.